lungs of a chronic yapper. Bow.
The road to trial and error.
You are never leaving school.
I know, God forbid. Someone said, God forbid. And I don't mean like secondary school or high school, depending on where in the world you live, but I mean you are never going to leave the classroom. You're never going to leave the concept of learning. Because I learned in my 20s that the classroom walls actually completely break down and they expand, and you are made aware that you have actually been in a classroom since you were born. And that is the classroom of life. The lessons are harder. It's not just about maths and physics. All of a sudden, you are enrolled in the classes of unlearning, relearning, and learning for the first time. And then all of a sudden, you begin to get these really harsh epiphanies and realizations that everything you thought you knew, you really don't know. And it's one thing not to know things about the world that you thought you didn't know, but in particular, this particular classroom of unlearning, relearning, and learning for the first time is you are going to realize that you do not know things about yourself. And it is brutal. If it is one thing about the 20s that I can say, the 20s has been like, it's almost as if God has capped a big red pen and he's just done like 20s is the year of revision. 20s is the year of uncapping pens and going through lines and saying, okay, this has got to come out. This has got to go. All of a sudden, every foundation that has been concrete becomes cement again, and there's water and things are seeping out and things are getting in. Let me tell you something. Everything that you taught was certain. Everything that you thought you knew is going to come into question if the foundations are not properly set. And it's going to be brutal. It's going to be a reckoning on every level. All of a sudden, you're questioning, why do I think that? Why do I agree with that? Where did that come from? And if you're not someone that's confrontational, and we just talked about in part 1, permission to go, we didn't even want to confront the fact that we actually are adults and the rules of adulthood now apply to us, that we're not teenagers anymore. And all this chaos, all this reckoning, unlearning, relearning, and learning for the first time could have been handled much more better for me if I had not only reminded myself of the right, but I had enforced the right that I have as a human to trial and error. Trial and error, or TAR mindset, because I'm going to be saying this word so often. And I continue to read from my manifesto. I said, after you've given yourself permission to go and do things and be an adult, you must be okay with going the wrong way. Or when you first start making decisions as an adult, you have to be okay that you are probably going to make wrong choices when you start. When you claim back your right to trial and error, every stumble becomes a lesson rather than a defeat. And you learn to take success and failures a lot less personally. And you, especially us as late bloomers, we need to have this room and realm of grace. Because remember, like we just talked about in point 1 of permission to trial and permission to go, control is new to us. Gall is new to us. Authority is new to us. Telling people, no, I have the right to a voice in my 20s is new to us, or 30s, however. So trial and error becomes this realm in which we can, it's like our cocoon, right? It's our place of grace and our place of growth without offense. So that in this realm of trial and error, it's so crucial for us to have, because we need this realm to we need to not only have this realm, but we need to go from adulthood from this foundational realm, as it keeps our positivity about adulthood alive because of this. The realm of trial and error reminds you that you are human, because you are not AI. It's, again, the realm of trial and error not only reminds you, it reinforces your humanity, that you are not an AI. And that trial and error not only is your right, but it actually, I think, is, I was going to say my portion, I don't know, but I think that's almost the same thing even with like the gospel. Because of grace, we've been given the ability to try and succeed and fail and try and continue in success and whatever. But the right to the TAR mindset of trial and error should be the basis after your permission to go as an adult, because it reminds you that you're human. We are not AI. No matter how hard it is for us to distinguish between the really humane AI that we are seeing, there's no such thing as humane AI, that we really begin to see like human-like AI, because our error separates us from the concept of like uncanny valley. Like when we think about AI, right? AI, written in its code, because AI is inherently just code. Artificial intelligence is code. When that code makes an error, something in us says, okay, no, that wasn't right. Even worse, when human-like AI tries to make themselves look like human, they then pretend, like you almost have to code error into an AI, and that gives us uncanny valley. Whereas when we make mistakes as humans, it enforces our humanity. And I write this. Because to be human is to side and to exist on error, and often To be human is to exist in the space between error and success. That is where we reside, not only as people, but as Homo sapiens. We are that tension, and we will be that tension between success and failure. That tension is all stages of our life, and the longest stage of our life, which is adulthood. You are an adult if you succeed. You are an adult if you fail. Now, how decent of an adult you choose to be, when we just give ourselves permission to go, that is entirely up to you. Do you see how we keep coming back to the permission to go, the gall, the gumption, the audacity to take adulthood into to take it in the reins? It's crucial. And then to build on that is that now that you know you can be an adult, you're not going to let anyone force you to be an AI kind of adult. No, you're going to trial and error. You're going to own your mistakes. You're going to have peace with making them. I also wrote here, a side note, also, at some point you have to believe that even some of your character is up to you. You cannot stall yourself forever. The longer you stall the responsibility of you, the more you'll suffer, and then us other people, we suffer as well. Whereas when you take the reins on yourself, even with burned hands from trauma, the better. It'll be for all of us, and even for you. So I said here, it is crucial that when you step into adulthood, from the whole permission to go realm, that you also take into consideration that you have the right to trial and error, and you do not have to pick up the burden of perfection. It's even if you're in your 20s, even if you're in your 30s. I'm saying that. Why do I say that? I know it feels like common sense, but heed, like all great things, there is an enemy of this. There is somewhat of an op against this mindset of trial and error. And I'm going to read straight from here. And I really want to make sure I get these words right. And I said this. Don't let people take away your right to trial and error from you, or TAR mindset. Whether that is through social media and the fine-tuning, people perfect algorithm. Because even when we're online so much, you have to be aware that if you keep seeing the specific kind of perfect people that algorithms prioritize over others, you're going to start to feel like that is normal. What the algorithms try to enforce is normal, you're going to start to gaslight yourself into believing it's normal, which is not the case. And a lot of these people, these perfect influencers, it's great and wonderful that they have their life together. Again, I'm not saying that if a person has their life together and they look seemingly perfect, that they're AI and they're not a real person. I want to see the real you. It's just as real to have your life together as it is real to unravel. But the trial and error realm reminds you that as an adult, you can perfectly exist in both. There is no one in between. You're not your successful you and your unraveling cheat day you. That is all you. But also, whether it is the odious aspects of cancel culture, my goodness gracious, cancel culture does not allow us to expand as people. I'm not saying we shouldn't hold people accountable, but people have become so stiff and rigid that they don't even want to make mistakes in the first place. How many people have you seen online be grilled to death for opinions that you actually may have, with your education, believe are quite logical? And you're like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't say that and do that. And then you begin to cut and snip and trim yourself like you're some sort of celebrity, and you try to act more AI. You are almost creating. I think that as we watch cancel culture and other mindsets that try and enforce this really odd sense of perfection, we kind of subliminally code in AI into us. Because if you take information as code, and we are always susceptible to new information, remember, we are updating ourselves. But what are we updating ourselves with? Is it with the idea that if you say this bad thing, you're canceled, and the path is already narrow, and now you're cutting your shoulders? So that is just one thing. Regardless of whether it's social media or cancel culture, the world might totally hate all forms of peace with trial and error. But you cannot let the world take that from you, especially as you are just now taking the reins in your adult life. If you do take if you allow people to take your TAR mindset from you, you revoke any chances of being a functioning adult. Because no matter how strong you are, if you can continuously convince yourself that you are a failure after failure, and you do not see that failure and success are inevitable, and success and failure are crucial, that they're two sides of the same coin, you will internalize every failure, and you will completely worship every success. But you shouldn't. You have to exist in that realm where whether you fail at something or succeed, it does not take away at your ability to be an adult. It doesn't take away your adult card. Because again, if you do not fight for your right to adulthood, it revokes any and all chances of you being a functioning adult. Listen to me. You are going to make mistakes. You perfectionists are going to make mistakes, big or small. You are going to make mistakes. you cannot get out of that as a human being. If you wanted to be mistakeless, I was going to say if you want to be mistakeless, be an angel, but we know what the heck happened to Lucifer, so you can even be in the head. Like, let me tell you something, that whole perfection thing is overrated. Like, you are going to make mistakes big and small. You are going to try and fail at things, and you will succeed at even the littlest, most inconsequential, mundane decisions. You must learn to be okay with that concept and to also say no to the opposite. To say no to anyone else who tries to take the okayness, the peace you gain with trial and error being okay with you. And people will try to do that. Once you make peace with trial and error, you make a home in that realm, then you start to see the programming all around you. I realized that I was still very much in that programming because I would get very stiff and very I get very terse and angry with people when I couldn't show up for them all the time, and I'm a failure. I have to be able to be on 100 all the time, but that's not possible. And when I reminded myself, Noemi, like, it's okay, like I'm not always going to be able to get things right the first time, especially that I'm just now 24, taking the reins in my adulthood, I began to get a lot less stiff, right? So anyway, you'll begin to notice the programming ways in which people have tried to take the right to trial and error from you. You'll notice that not every mistake is the end of the world, and how that's not fair for you to have a belief like that. And that belief is not natural. Remember, you are like beautiful marble being shaped into this wonderful statue throughout all your life. And that realm of trial and error, mistakes and failures is grace. You cannot be an adult, a functioning, positive adult, without grace. You might not like the situation you're in. You might have done that to yourself. You will not be able to bully yourself out of it. Yes, I know we need to be hard, like strict in ourselves, but you can be strict and have grace. And consecutive positive criticisms, they all help to chip and peel away at the unnecessary marble until what remains is this beautiful being that you are made to be in God. But you cannot get to that being without trial and error, without grace, my dear neighbors. Do not let yourself be permitted. Never again allow yourself to be submitted to the yoke of perfection, for that is real slavery, and that will delude you out of your adulthood, because you will begin to think that your brand of adulthood is not as worthy as somebody else's. And I'm telling you, in this day and age and in this generation, everyone is growing less and less resilient, because surprisingly enough, when you have grace, imagine being an adult that you take mistakes and successes both equally in stride. You don't internalize both. You would be surprised that grace and actually builds resilience. I used to think that resilience was being strict and stiff, and I have to lean to my morals and stuff, and if I bend in any sort of way, then I'm not a real person and I have no morals and all my morals are for sale. And I say, girl, chill. Surprisingly, grace makes you be able to withstand. I don't know if it's true, but isn't there like palm trees? I learned there was a fact or something where there are palm trees in certain countries that when storms happen, they don't actually sit straight. They actually bend in storms, and then they actually come back up and become even stronger. That's the same thing with you. Grace does that. Perfection deteriorates. The cost of perfection, what perfection demands of every person, is deterioration. You should not deteriorate in the name of being a perfect adult. What you should strive for is excellence. Excellence comes in taking the full stride of your human condition in pride, in stride, and growing into an adult with grace and resilience. And you cannot do that if you are stiff, if you do not allow yourself to trial and error. Again, I'm telling you, it's so simple. I know I'm just going off and yapping and stuff, but I can tell you simple things all the time, and I won't take simple things. Tell me if this feels familiar to you. You have inner monologues like, oh shoot, you're an idiot. Oh damn, I can't do anything right. Oh, F me, screw me, I can't do anything. I'm 40 something and I should know how to do this, that, and the third. That sort of self-talk, you are probably so used to that talk, because I would make the claim that wasn't even your own inner personal language. That sort of self-talk was probably around you and was used as a painful tool by other people around you to immobilize themselves to necessary action. But whether it worked for them or not, it doesn't even matter, because it's not about them, it's about you right now. Is it working? If the answer is yes, I'm telling you, babe, it's probably still not working. It's probably still not working for your best good and for your mental and emotional good. Because as an adult and seeing all the news about like deletion in both men and women, and mental health and medicines, and people feeling like they are running and escaping, and drugs being high, and alcohol, and all this, that, and the third. It really is beyond a miracle. It is an anomaly. It's an unbelieving thing to believe that having decent mental health, let alone good mental health, can be the portion of adults, can be something that adults can have in this day and age and generation. And this point too about trial and error is ensuring that if there's anything that I can say and do to encourage you to fight for your mental health, of course, but to also try and help break down some barriers that actually reinforce very toxic ways of thinking, which is not good. And I believe everybody deserves to have a good mental health. Everyone deserves to have a good brain, a brain that doesn't fight itself. So I'm sure we know that maybe toxic motivation helps some people in a short while, but the more you are used to the toxic ways of doing things to get jobs done, then the more reliant you'll become to toxicity. Remember, point one, we talked about being reliant on external markers. What are you reliant on? Are you reliant on external permissions to go? And now are you reliant to toxicity? And all of a sudden you start seeing toxic things in everything, and toxic things are good things, and now your view of what is good and bad is completely skewed and skewered. Like, we can't afford that as late blooming adults, right? And that's just going to end up terribly in relationships and in life. So no, we do not need sustained toxic motivation. So let us rewrite the script, the self-talk script. Color your inner words with the ink of grace, the colorful hues of trial and error. Kinder inner commentary going forward. Kinder inner commentary is crucial. And besides, you really don't even need toxic motivation in the long run. You can choose the purity of trial and error, the grace of trial and error, because in perfectionism, there's no inherent toxicity. In perfectionism, there's only inherent toxicity because there is no grace in it. And we don't do toxicity in the neighborhood. So the right to trial and error and the power that comes from that, the freedom that greets you in this plane of existence, is positive adulthood. I'm telling you, you cannot be a positive adult if you do not give yourself grace to trial and error, my love. Don't try. And so take big note as you develop the audacity to take the reins of your life, especially for people who really relied on you being subservient to them, so permission to go. As you then also be bold and confident in knowing that you are a growing adult, and maybe you're behind from other people, and as you become more confident and as you choose trial and error as a new burgeoning adult at 21, 47, or even 89, know that most likely you will be seen as a fool to your friends, to your family, to the outside world, and even most unfortunately to yourself. So when that invariably, undoubtedly happens, if it should come to pass, then an actionable step, and actually my favorite side point that you can mentally and physically take is this, and I'm so excited to announce this. You think you're a dunce? You think you're an idiot? Okay, then let's work with that. You think that you're such a fool that you can't even write 3 sentences, let alone 3 paragraphs? Okay, then let's work with that. You want to be a writer, but you can't write? Okay, let's work with that. In the realm of being trial and error, you have to be okay with looking like the fool. You have to make sure that your own inner home sanctuary is dunce friendly. If you think you're an idiot, okay, you're an idiot then, fine. I'm not saying that in like a bad way. I'm saying that it's like, if we're going to call ourselves these negative names, we should be thinking to do that to get out of that place, right? So, if you think you're a fool, okay, well then let's make this classroom foolproof friendly. This is what the realm of trial and error is. Trial and error can house, I said here, and I wanted to get it right. I said, trial and error can house the mess. Perfectionism cannot house your mess. Perfectionism requires you to lie. As you deteriorate because there's a distance between who you really are and who you're trying to become. And there is no realm in between to get you there, right? Everyone is always talking about thinking about being in the end result. But if your end result is to be in shape, you have to be extremely disciplined. You don't even imagine the process. You don't even manifest or visualize the process. You're only ever looking at the end result, but your brain can't even comprehend you exercising 3 days in a row. Right? That realm that you cannot imagine is the trial and error realm. The trial and error realm can house who you are right now as you become who you want to be. But it does so with grace and with kindness. Even if you think you are a fool and stuff, I mean, if we are, like, let us be really honest, if we are going back to the basics, if you're someone that you can't even write down 6 + 7 and without putting it in the calculator to make sure. Okay, then let's start from that. If you want to be a mathematician, but you don't even know you can do your long multiplication tables, great. When you go home and it's you're going to buy first grade maths books and you're going to start them from the start. That makes people are going to think you're an idiot. Like, oh, you're 26 and you can't do that. Okay, well, maybe so. But like, so how the heck else are you going to get to where you want to be? You've been bullying yourself for years. We just talked about the negative self-talk. That negative self-talk has done nothing but made you feel like a crappy person. And you're not even doing anything to evolve. It doesn't make you more humble. It actually you just stay there. You just stink with honestly just toxicity. Toxicity has a smell. It stank. Like, you know what has a smell that keeps changing is growth, is evolving as you're purging. We had just said that our 20s is about revising. You're revising, and then you're going to take in the revising advice. That advice is going to be, okay, you want to be a climate change activist? Do you know anything about climate change? No? Okay, well then let's start from that. How can we make this room like dunce friendly? That's totally fine. You have to learn to work with what you have. Some people don't even want to admit what they have, and they want to just visualize right to the end. But you cannot newly adult without being a little bit gracious to your actual real self, not gracious to the self you want to be. Like, for some reason, for some people, it's just going to be too hard for them to imagine themselves as a happy person when they've been really struggling all their lives. But you have to at least face yourself. You cannot face yourself in the realm of perfection. You cannot face yourself in the realm of AI. You can face yourself in the realm of trial and error, because that is grace, right? Don't bother trying to be an adult if you cannot face yourself. That's going to be really hard. So strict, yes, but most definitely be strict, but unfriendly, no. If you cannot function as an adult with being kind to yourself, you might as well go back to the cradle and go back to sucking on your baby toy, because I'm sorry, that not being able to face yourself, there could be millions of reasons, I understand, but that's going to be incredibly detrimental to your adult journey. That's why the trial and error realm, even if it's ugly, what reflects back to you can be really ugly, awful, maybe even a bit demonic. That's what that realm is for. That's the realm worth fighting for, because that grace realm fights for you. You need to go into that realm. Like, maybe you have to bring up sparring box gloves, and you'll find that you're actually punching yourself in the face because you got to fight yourself. You can't do that in the realm of perfection, because perfection needs you to be delusional at the door. Whereas with the realm of trial and error, even if you have delusional dreams, the realistic way in which you're going to get there is going to be full of grace, right? And it's also going to be so wonderful for you, because you'll be able to tell people, like, I went from being this total uneducated whatever person who at 23 struggled to do long multiplication, and now I'm working in like a physics department. And people are like, how the heck did you do that? And that's going to be more realistic. That nitty gritty, all that glitters isn't gold, that ugly, not glittering realm is the realm of trial and error. And that is such a very lost art. You need to fight for that, babe, because that's what's going to get you to be the adult you want and need to be. I'm a little bit nervous, but I use myself as an example, so I'm going to read in case I'm embarrassed, I will admit. So, using me as an example, I realized very recently enough that I am actually not only a late bloomer, but I'm a perfectionistic late bloomer. So whether I was late because I missed the bulletin board message, the one we were talking about, or I'm just late to finally realizing that I am on a different path than what others thought for me, whatever the reason is, I recognize that I cannot get ahead, or at least even catch up, without being at peace with trial and error, or being a fool to others and myself and starting again. If I need to relearn my actual ABCs, like literally buy an alphabet book and memorize them, then I'll have to make peace with it. If I don't, I'll just keep beating myself up for what I don't know and should have known by now, but I won't take any steps towards actually learning anything. So, decorating my personal inner space, but literally at home, but also my mind, is critical to being a functioning adult. Being okay with being a dunce makes it easier for me to forgive myself for what I haven't achieved yet. And I need to do that, right? That's one of the secret sauces I'm learning is going to make my adulthood not only manageable, but actually happy and enjoyable. Whether dunce or intelligent, it doesn't matter. We are in this now. The classroom of life has a seat especially for us, and we better make sure that we make it as comfy and as bold as we can. Only our unique behind can sit in the chair that is made for us. So don't let other people or anyone make you feel uncomfortable in your own chair, even if it's crumbling a bit. Don't let others put spikes on your chair. Be earnest about what you have to work with, because remember, you have the right and the role and the responsibility to trial and error in peace. That'll bring courage to other people to do the same if need be. As a late bloomer, perfectionist, or whoever you are, you cannot and should not bypass trial and error and dunce kindness in the pursuit of becoming a functioning and content adult whatsoever. Again, not many people I think are on that journey, because we've kind of completely not seen the use for fighting for our adulthood, but you should not try and bypass the realm of trial and error. It's going to be the most icky realm, the sticky realm, the trauma-filled realm, but it's going to be the realm that's going to save you. So again, I encourage you, know that you are not a failure when you fail, and you are not better than other people because when you succeed, because you succeed. The realm of trial and error is where the true functioning of an adult can begin. I was gonna say amen. Honestly, amen. Okay, well, I hope that made sense. I hope that was a bit clear. Forgive me if I am reading here, you guys. It's just because, like, I'm still new to the camera, and I know I can speak well, but when it comes to something that's really important that I feel like can help someone's soul, I would rather just read and look from time to time, because I really want to make sure that the words are helping you and penetrating in the places where they need to. So with that being said, you guys, take a drink of water. That was literally only point 2. Now, okay, now point 3, I'm going to do my best. It's going to be shorter. Okay, point 3 is going to be shorter, and I'm so excited. And point 3 is this.